One of my viewers has asked me the question about what cars I've had, and I've had a few. It took me a little while to compile this list and get the old grey matter working, but here we go. The first car that I ever had was a Vauxhall Astra. It was an E-Reg. It was a 1.3 Merit. It was in red. It was pretty awful thinking back at it, but I did scrape it all the way down the side of the car on the Shankly gates going into Anfield. Quite soon after that I traded that in for a Vauxhall Cavalier. I did like my Vauxhalls back then, and I thought this Vauxhall Cavalier was superb. It was a 2-litre engine, it had electric mirrors, it had central locking, and it had rear head restraints. I was the bee's knees then. My first BMW I ever had came next. It was 1984, and it was a 323i in Dolphin Grey. It was quite a nice car, but it didn't last long. It caught fire within 48 hours of me buying it, and it was a total loss. It was just a good job I didn't sell the Cavalier, but quite soon after I bought what I call my first proper car. It was a Toyota Celica. It was a 2-litre GT, and where did I get my inspiration for that? Well, it had pop-up headlights, it was bright red. Did I ever watch Magnum PI? Possibly. After that came my first brand new car that I ever bought, and it was a Ford Escort GTR. Amparo blue was the colour. It was really a nice colour, but looking back it was chavvy as anything. It had all the looks but no go. 1.8 litre engine. It also had white dials. Who remembers them? Because a few of my kids had come along by that point, we needed a family car, so we bought the first of what I call the buses, and it was a Volkswagen Charan. Next I traded in the Cavalier for a Fiat Punto. This was the first of my driving school cars, and it was quite simply awful. I was only a trainee instructor at the time, so I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and it showed. When I qualified as a driving instructor, I treated myself to a new car. I bought a Skoda Fabia. It was really good, to be honest, but the thing that really stands out and in my memory was it had a 1.9 litre non-turbocharged diesel engine. Sluggish, to say the least. A couple of Ford Focuses followed after that. They were good cars. The first one had beaded seat covers, and the reason why I put beaded seat covers on was to stop my students leaving sweat patches on the beige seats. They're not allowed nowadays on test, but that takes me back. The other one that I had, it was all singing, all dancing. It had all the extras you could possibly imagine: leather seats, electric sunroof, but it didn't have ABS. It was a 52 reg, that one. We traded in the Volkswagen Charan for another people carrier, and it was a Ford Galaxy, which is effectively the same thing, but this was the first automatic that we ever had, and it's the only car that my wife has ever had a crash in, and she crashed this one into the house. Next was another driving school car, and it was another new car that I bought. It was a Renault Megane. It's the one with a sticky out bum. It did break down within a couple of weeks of me buying it. The power steering broke, and I took it back to the dealer, and the dealer said to me that the fuses weren't designed for British weather. Thanks, it's 2 weeks old. The next swap was for another people carrier, and this one was absolutely huge. We bought a Chrysler Grand Voyager. It was absolutely massive, and I thought I was the real bee's knees with this one. It had electric doors, it had a DVD player, it had headphones in that could link up to the DVD system. Just a shame, because after 3 years everything was broke. My next driving school car was a Vauxhall Vectra SRI. People said I was absolutely mad for teaching in such a big vehicle. But to be honest, in the 3 years that I had it, I only had 4 people fail driving tests in that car. Another driving school vehicle was purchased as well, and it was an automatic, and it was a Ford Focus. And this is the only car that I've ever had that I got converted to LPG. Another driving school car change saw me get rid of the Vectra, and I bought a Volkswagen Jetta. Yeah, the Golf with a boot. Again, another unusual choice. I did like a little bit bigger car. I was doing some instructor training, or a fair bit of instructor training, but it was really good. It was really reliable as well. One of the best I've had. A Citroen C4 came next. It was a driving school automatic, and it was quite simply the worst automatic gearbox I've ever driven in any car. You would press the gas and it would take at least a couple of seconds before it moved. Saying that though, was it a true automatic? Not really. It was more like an automated manual. Another unsuccessful attempt at buying a BMW came next. I bought a 118 diesel in an automatic, again, driving school vehicle, and for the first bit it was okay until the turbo blew and it spewed all the turbo blades into the engine, and it had a massive repair bill. Luckily enough, that was covered under warranty, but the car was never the same. It was so unreliable, so I had to get rid of it. Because I was using the BMW automatic a majority of my time, I didn't have the need for a big flash driving school manual vehicle. So the Jetta went, and I actually bought a nice Fiesta. Cracking little car. The Fiesta was actually crashed on a driving lesson. It wasn't our fault. Someone tried to turn right from the left lane of a roundabout. So that got swapped for a Kia Proceed, which was a cracking little car. The only thing that really did my head in about that it had manual adjustable mirrors. And that's a pain in the bum when you're doing maybe 6 or 7 driving lessons a day. So that had to go as well. Because the BMW automatic, the 118D, was so unreliable, I swapped that for a Toyota Auris. It was the first hybrid vehicle that I had, and honestly it was so reliable it was untrue. 90,000 miles in 3 years and it never even had a hiccup. What a good car. The Chrysler Voyager was on its last legs, so we swapped it in for another 7-seater. This time we bought an Audi Q7, and the Q7 was simply the best car ever in the snow. It was unbelievable, the Quattro system. Then buying an Audi A3 proved my transformation into an Audi fanboy. This was used for me doing the driving instructor training. We had a couple of years of not changing any cars. The Toyota Auris was my main workhorse and was really reliable, and so was the Audi. But they get to a certain mileage, I usually think 80,000-90,000 miles, when things start maybe going wrong. So I did swap the Auris in for another hybrid, and it's the Toyota Yaris. And it's the one of my lads uses, even to this present day. We swapped the Audi Q7 for a Range Rover. And it was the Vogue, and it was the 4.4 litre V8 diesel. This was a terrible purchase. It lost so much money, it was untrue, and every single time that I used it I felt people were staring at me. Not the best, but it was the most comfortable car I've ever had on long journeys. Superb. Some of you may remember my BMW 1 Series. It wasn't that long ago that I had it. Well, I actually had 2. The first one got crashed into at a set of traffic lights. Someone jumped to red and came through and hit one of my lads who was driving it, and the car was a total loss. So all I did, I went and found exactly the same car and then bought another one. So I've had 2 of them. We swapped the Range Rover in for our BMW RM3 that we've got at the minute, and it's the only ever car that my wife has said, I'd love one of them. So we swapped it. It's a brutal machine that deserves so much respect. Would I change that? I don't think so. We've also currently got a Mercedes A190D in an automatic, and this car is honestly one of the most comfortable smaller cars I've ever been in. It's well equipped, and honestly now I could sell it for more than the price that I paid for it about a year ago. It was a cracking buy. So on to present day and my current car, the 3 Series. It's been a troubled 12 months since I've had this. It's been into the workshop a few times to have a few things fixed, but that's been rectified quite quickly. It's been crashed into in the car park. Most of you may have seen that, but it is a lovely, well-built car. It's really comfortable. It's got as much performance as I would ever need in a daily car, and I'm really pleased with it. So it's going nowhere. So what will the future hold? Well, who knows? I'm not going to change anything anytime soon. It's not good from my business perspective to be changing any cars at this point. So we're as we are for a little bit. But what would I go for in the future? Would electric come into my reckoning? Possibly. There's still some limits on some of the range of the electric vehicles. If you do go to the higher range vehicles, often the insurance group and the performance will be too much for a driving school car, so there's a little balance there. There are a few new things coming to the market though that could fit the bill. Would a hybrid car, maybe even a plug-in hybrid, suit? And could I stick with an automatic in what I do? Well, I think I probably could. Let me know what you think in the comments on where I'll be going next. It'll be interesting to hear everyone's views. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. I'll see you soon.